Hi all. Before I start this video, let me say that this video may not be all that popular with my Christian viewers, because I will interpret the book of Revelation with what Maxwell Jordan calls Astro-Theology. Secondly, it may not be all that popular with my atheist viewers, since I am using a book that they consider to be fiction. But anyhow, for those of you who have ears to hear and eyes to see, here goes. Also, in preface to this video, I'd like to say that from a very young age, like my teenage years, I have been deeply interested and drawn to the book of Revelation and all end-time prophecies of all sources. I have spent about 30 years trying to decode these ancient prophecies, and finally, I believe I have succeeded in decoding the very cryptic book of Revelation. You may not agree, but whether you completely agree or not, you have to admit that what I present is very fascinating and not without merit. This first slide shows a Hebrew zodiac chart. That's not to say that the Hebrews were into astrology. On the contrary, they, like all the peoples in the Middle East, were very interested in the stars, constellations, and precession of the ages. The first thing I'd like to point out is that if we go clockwise, we see that the zodiac chart is not in the order of the months, but rather in order of the ages, which go counter to the month signs because of the reverse wobble of the Earth axis. This proves that the chart was not used for astrology, but rather for precession. It also proves that the ancients were fully aware of precession. Now, let me compare the chart with the book of Revelation. In Revelation 4, a door opens, and John sees a throne and a shiny personage sitting on the throne. That personage is depicted in the center of the chart. Next, John sees 24 elders. Those 24 elders are depicted by the 24 stars in the center of the chart. And let me say that I think those 24 stars or 24 elders represent the 24,000 years of a precession. And some of you may say, well, it's not 24,000 years, it's 25.8 thousand years. Yeah, that's true, but things may have changed since the last, since 6,000 years ago. Anyways, I still think it represents precession. Next, John sees 4 beasts, and the order is very important. First, he sees a lion, aka Leo. Next, he sees a calf, aka Taurus. Next, he sees a man, aka Aquarius. Next, he sees an eagle, aka Aquila. Now let me interpolate here. Many scholars like J. Widener and David Flynn will tell you that the eagle represents Scorpio, which is said to transform into an eagle after being shot by Sagittarius. With all due respect to those great scholars, I humbly disagree. Through my research, I discovered that there is an eagle constellation called Aquila right between Capricorn and Sagittarius. See this next slide for verification. I call this the mysterious 13th sign of the zodiac. Please note that J. Widener calls Ophiuchus the mysterious 13th sign of the zodiac, but Ophiuchus is not mentioned in the book of Revelation. Clearly, what John is being shown are 4 specific ages, or references for specific time periods. Now, going back to the Hebrew zodiac chart, John then sees a white horse with a rider, and the rider is holding a bow. I believe that this is a reference to Sagittarius. John then sees a red horse, which I think represents Scorpio, obviously, because Scorpio is red, and the sword of the rider represents the scorpion's stinger. John then sees a black horse, and the rider is carrying balances, which clearly is a reference to Libra. John then sees a fourth horse, or rider, a horse and rider combination. It's a pale horse, and the rider is called Death. In ancient Middle Eastern numerology, the number 4 represented death. So, clearly, John is making a connection here. The fourth horse represents death, or the fourth rider represents death. Now, this is not to represent physical death, but rather the death of some event. In essence, it signifies the end of something. In this case, I believe it signifies the end of procession. The next thing that John sees are the 144,000. I have struggled to understand what this meant. I had to place many pieces of the puzzle together in order to fathom the meaning of the 144. Firstly, let me point out that scholars like J. Widener and David Flynn will attest that the 4 beasts represent the 4 points on the zodiac, as represented in this next slide. Namely, Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio. I personally think that they are mistaken. I am an eclectic person. I take all the prophecies of all the ancients and merge them into one. Therefore, I had to account for the fact that the Mayans divided their procession into 5, not 4, 5 equal parts of 5,126 years each. I also came across some Masonic symbols of a 5-pointed star. As you can see in this next slide, there is a 5-pointed star upside down. I am operating here under the notion that all the ancients have preserved knowledge of some great event, some cyclical event, in their own ways. Now, in Buddhism, and perhaps Hinduism, the most sacred number is 108. I just had to fit that into my equation somehow, for I knew it must be significant. So I googled 108, and here's what I found. Every angle of a perfect pentagon is exactly 108 degrees. Whoa! Yeah, some of you are already putting the pieces together in your mind. If you connect the vertices of the pentagram, you get a 5-pointed star. Now we see the Masonic and Hindu Buddhist connection. So how does this connect with the Hebrews? Well, if we put the pentagram on top of a circle of 360 degrees, this is what you see. So you can see that on a circle of 360 degrees, each vertex of the pentagram is 72 degrees apart. And in and of itself, that is a significant number. But 72 times 2 is 144 degrees. Whoa, again. Now, I'm going to superimpose the pentagram onto the Hebrew zodiac. So, by doing a quintile of the zodiac instead of a quartile like Jay Widener and David Flynn do, we can tie together all the information given to us by all the ancients. Firstly, we have accounted for the 4 beasts of the book of Revelation: lion, Leo, calf, Taurus, man, Aquarius, eagle, Aquila. Secondly, it is my contention that every biquintile of the precession, or 2/5 of the precession, or 144 degrees of precession, something really bad happens to our planet. And in case you haven't guessed, I'm suggesting that the 144,000 of the book of Revelation signifies 144 degrees of precession. Science verifies my claim. The last major earth changes happened between 10,000 and 12,000 years ago. A biquintile of precession would be 5,126 plus 5,126, which is 10,252 years between major cataclysms. Was there a major cataclysm, a worldwide cataclysm, 5,126 years ago? Sure there was. Science proves it. But I'm saying that every 144 degrees of precession, the cataclysm is worse. I suggest that Noah's flood and the Hindu Manu's flood happened in the age of Leo, and that the end of Atlantis happened in the age of Taurus. Where are we now? In the beginning of the age of Aquarius. Oh, by the way, I think it is interesting to note that the pentagram appears upside down on the Hebrew zodiac, which is exactly how the Masons portray it. In conclusion, we can see how the ancients of every part of the world have encoded important pieces of the puzzle and left it for us to pick up the pieces and put them together into one eclectic diagram.